Okay, so you know how the market can be, right? Like one day things are looking pretty good, and then bam, out of nowhere, there's some crazy turn.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this past March, the Nasdaq kind of went through something like that,
Oh,
dipped into what they call correction territory, which basically means it fell more than 10% from where it was back in December.
right.
I think some of those tariffs that were being tossed around had investors a little spooked, you
Mhm.
know? But then, like it usually does, it started to bounce back a bit.
Yeah, it tends to do that.
And the funny thing about these times when the market gets all shaky,
What's that?
well, sometimes it can actually open up some interesting doors, some real opportunities.
Absolutely. It's like those moments can really highlight which companies might have solid long-term potential, even if the market's kind of freaking out about other stuff.
Exactly.
When the whole market takes a hit, even some really good businesses can see their stock prices drop. And that can be a good thing if you're looking at the bigger picture.
Totally. And that's actually what caught our eye. We were checking out the Motley Fool, and there was this article from March 27th, 2025. The title was something like NASDAQ Post-Correction, My Top 3 AI Stocks to Buy Before They Soar.
Okay, yeah.
So for this deep dive, we thought it'd be cool to dig into those 3 AI companies that they highlighted.
Right.
It's like getting a chance to really zoom in and understand what's going on with these potentially exciting companies without getting caught up in all the day-to-day market craziness.
Sounds good to me. I'm ready to dive in.
Perfect. So with the market being a little unpredictable, which can, like we were saying, create opportunities,
Yeah,
this article points to Palantir Technologies as one of the companies to watch.
Palantir. Okay,
Now, you might have heard of them before, but here's where it gets really interesting.
I'm listening.
The year before, they were the top performer in the whole S&P 500. Like, seriously
Really?
blew everything else out of the water.
Wrong.
A 340% increase. Can you believe that?
That is impressive.
And they even hit a new record high in February. So you can see why we'd want to take a closer look.
Definitely. A track record like that usually means there's something pretty substantial going on underneath.
For sure. And with Palantir, what's really interesting is what they're actually doing. They're providing these AI platforms to a whole bunch of clients, both government and commercial.
Got it.
So for everyone listening who might not be totally familiar with them, it's basically like this. They help these big organizations take mountains of data, the kind that can be totally overwhelming, and they make sense of it.
Right.
They use AI to analyze it all and help these organizations become more efficient and, probably most importantly, control their costs better.
Makes sense.
And the article even specifically said that they've had double-digit revenue growth in both their government and commercial sectors.
So they must be doing something right.
Seems like it, right? And it kind of shows you how much potential there is for using AI to analyze data. Like, it's becoming super important for companies in every industry to use AI if they want to stay competitive and make smart decisions.
I totally agree.
Okay, here's another thing that really caught my eye. Palantir has what's called a Rule of 40 score, and theirs is a whopping 81%.
81. That's pretty high, isn't it?
Yeah, so basically this Rule of 40 thing, it's like a way to see how well a company is balancing its growth with actually making money. A score of 40% or higher is usually a good sign, but 81.
Yeah, 81 is exceptional.
That's telling you they're not just growing really fast, but they're also really good at turning that growth into actual profits. For investors, that's a great indicator, It shows they're building something sustainable.
Absolutely. You see a lot of tech companies that are all about growing super fast, but they don't always focus on making a profit right away.
Right.
But a high Rule of 40 score, like Palantir's, that tells you they've got a really efficient business model, which is important for long-term success.
Okay, so even with that crazy growth they had before, their stock had actually dropped about 24% from its highest point.
Oh, interesting.
And the article is saying this could be a good time to buy.
Okay, how come?
They point to their forward price earnings to growth ratio, which is at 0.8. Now, for those who aren't super familiar with that, a PEG ratio under 1 can mean that a stock is kind of undervalued compared to how much it's expected to grow in the future.
That's interesting. It kind of makes you think, like, how do you see a dip in a stock like that when the company seems to be doing really well overall?
Right.
The article's saying it's a good time to buy because of things like the PEG ratio, but it's also a good reminder that even though market corrections can be a little scary, they can also give you a chance to buy into a good company at a better price.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's about looking beyond just what the stock price is doing at this exact moment, right?
Exactly. We got to consider the bigger picture.
Okay, let's move on to the next AI stock on their list, Amazon. Now, this is one that I'm sure almost everyone listening is familiar with in some way. Probably got an Amazon package delivered recently, right? But what's really cool is how they're using AI in a couple different ways.
Yeah, their approach to AI is pretty interesting. It's not just about them making and selling AI stuff. They're also using it a ton internally to improve their own operations.
Exactly. So on the one hand, they're using AI in their giant online store. Like when you search for something, even if you're kind of vague, Amazon usually finds it pretty quickly. That's AI working behind the scenes, figuring out what you're really looking for and recommending things you might like.
Right.
And that helps them lower their costs, which is good for them and probably good for us as customers too.
For sure.
But then they've also got Amazon Web Services, or AWS, which is huge in cloud computing. And they're selling all sorts of AI tools and services through AWS, which is bringing in a lot of extra revenue for them. It's like they're tackling the whole AI thing from two really smart directions.
I like that, tackling it from two directions. And the fact that AWS is already the biggest cloud provider in the world.
Yeah.
It gives them a massive advantage when it comes to offering AI stuff. As more and more companies start using AI, which is what everyone's predicting, AWS is in a perfect position to benefit from that.
It really shows how connected everything is in the tech world, right? Like the technology that powers so much of the internet could also be the biggest winner from the AI revolution.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is.
And the article points out that AWS is already Amazon's main source of profit. So as more businesses start using AI and need AWS services, that's only going to help Amazon's bottom line even more.
It creates a pretty powerful cycle, right? More AI adoption means more growth for AWS, which then makes Amazon even more profitable. Totally. And considering that a lot of industries are still in the early stages of figuring out how to use AI, it seems like there's a lot of potential for AWS and therefore for Amazon to keep growing for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
Now, if you look at how the market values Amazon right now, it's trading at about 32 times its expected future earnings.
Okay.
Which is actually down from about 45 times just a few months ago. So the author of this article is saying that this could be a bargain for people looking to invest in AI.
Makes sense. When the market as a whole drops, it can make certain companies seem a lot more appealing to investors, especially if their underlying business is still strong and they have a good chance of growing in the future. And it sounds like that's the case with Amazon.
All right, let's wrap things up with the third AI stock on the list. Meta platforms, I'm sure everyone listening knows their apps. Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, Instagram, they have an incredible number of users. Over 3.3 billion daily active users across all their platforms.
3.3 billion. Wow, that is a massive reach.
It's hard to even wrap your head around that many people.
And that huge user base gives them a pretty significant advantage in the AI world.
Yeah.
You know, think about how much data those billions of users generate every single day.
Yeah.
That data is incredibly valuable for training and improving AI models.
Makes sense.
They actually launched their own AI assistant, Meta AI, back in 2023, and it's already the most used AI assistant in the world.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
So how exactly is Meta using all this data from their social media platforms to make their AI even better?
Well, their main AI strategy seems to be about integrating AI into everything they do to keep users engaged. They're adding all these AI-powered features and assistants, making their apps more helpful and entertaining so people will spend more time on them.
Which then gives them more opportunities to show ads, which is how they make most of their money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
And the article mentions that they're putting some serious money into AI research and development, up to $65 billion just this year alone. They're building new data centers and buying more AI chips. That's a huge investment.
Yeah, that shows how much they believe in the power of AI to change their business. It takes a lot of resources to develop and use the kind of cutting-edge AI models they need to stay ahead of the curve.
Here's something else that's really interesting. Meta created their own large language model. That's the kind of AI that powers a lot of these advanced applications, and they've made it open source. Now, for anyone who's not a tech expert, that basically means they're sharing their AI technology with researchers and developers around the world.
That's a pretty big deal.
It is. What do you think that means for Meta and the future of AI?
Well, by making their model open source, they're encouraging people to contribute to it and improve it. It could speed up innovation in the whole AI industry, and maybe even help Meta set some of the standards for how AI is used in the future. Kind of like what happened with Linux early on. It became the foundation for a whole ecosystem of software development.
Yeah.
Meta could be doing something similar with AI, even if they don't directly make money from this particular model.
Yeah.
It's a really smart move.
And just like with Palantir and Amazon, Meta's stock has also dropped recently. It's now trading at 24 times its expected future earnings, which is down from 29 times not too long ago. So the article's saying this could be another good buying opportunity.
Interesting. So we've got 3 companies here, Palantir, Amazon, and Meta.
Yeah.
All of them are doing some really interesting stuff with AI, and all of them have seen their stock prices drop recently, which the article is saying could be a chance to buy in at a lower price. Plus, they're all considered to be undervalued based on their potential for future growth.
Exactly. So to sum it all up for you, we've looked at these 3 AI stocks that the Motley Fool thinks are worth considering after that recent dip in the Nasdaq. Palantir, which is all about using AI to analyze data and make organizations more efficient. Amazon, which is using AI to improve its own business and also selling AI services through AWS. And Meta Platforms, which is using its huge social media reach and data to power its AI efforts.
And, of course, it's important to remember that all investments come with risks, and you should always do your own research before making any decisions. But learning about companies that are leading the way in AI can definitely give you some good ideas about where the market might be headed.
For sure. And that brings us to our final thought for everyone listening today.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Meta made the decision to make its large language model open source, right?
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, what other unexpected, maybe even groundbreaking areas could AI innovation come from in the next few years? And not just the stuff we're already seeing with chatbots and AI image generation, but something totally new.
That's a great question. AI is moving so fast, it's hard to even imagine what's next. But I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Me too. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us.
It was a pleasure being here.